Hi, my name's Elizabeth Dyer. You can call me Liz if you call me at all. I'm making my first video for Polymer Clay TV today, so you'll have to bear with me. Excuse me if the camera goes a little bit out of focus or something else happens. I have had a go at editing. I hope it's okay for you. So first, welcome to my room. This is where I do all my polymer clay work, all my artwork, because I don't unfortunately have a studio yet. That's something for the future. So I'm going to show you today how to make one of these lovely clay bowls. You can use any colour you want. You can use any type of clay. It's quite an easy project, suitable for a beginner, and you can make it more complex. Comes with time and practice, of course. To make one of these bowls, you will of course need your clay. I use Fimo, and a bowl. Now a ceramic bowl is what you need, not a plastic one. Any shape, any size. I start with sort of a medium size. Should find one in your kitchen. Tends to be what people eat their cereal out of. You'll also need some kind of blade to slice your clay, so I've got my little scalpel there and a super slicer, of course. And also you'll want a roller and something to work on. So I've got this the ceramic tile here. You could use a piece of glass or something like perspex, anything really that's smooth and flat. I tend to use not just a piece of ceramic tile, but also a bit of glass on a bit of wood on my bed. So that's where I do all my work. So let's have a go at this and see how it goes. So I've got my three polymer clay colours in Fimo Soft and Classic, my little blade there for slicing, and I also have a bit of dark brown that was left over from a cane the other day, and the all-important super slicer. So just starting by conditioning the clay, warming it up between my hands. Takes a while because it's cold here in the UK, very wintry, even in my house. Rolling it out into a neat little log. I'm not particularly accurate on the sizes here because you tend to get a lot of wastage, and depending on what size bowl you want, each requires a different amount of materials. Now you can see here I'm just squishing the log down to make a square log, and so I'm just going to use my super slicer to slice it in half. So I'm taking this bit to wrap around my first squarey block to build up a cane. I'm using an acrylic roller then to squish it out to make it fairly evenly flat. You could use a pasta machine for clay conditioning for rolling it out, but I find that the roller is ample. And I pop it on to the block, slice it down for a nice neat edge, and then just wrap that second piece of clay around the central square. There we go, you can see it there. And then trim off any excess from the end. So you can see how I'm going to start building up a kind of square target shaped cane. It's relatively large. You tend to use more clay than you think you will with one of these bowls, and the excess, well, it can be mixed up to make another colour, or it can be used sometimes for earrings, to create all sorts of different things, charms. You can see there, that's the square cane. I've just rolled down each side to flatten the edges. Now I'm on to my next colour. And I'm going to use a nice bright buttery yellow for the colour, final colour. Again, slice it in half, repeat the process with conditioning the clay and rolling it out. We're going to do the exact same thing again and wrap it round the block. I'll speed this bit up a bit for you so that you don't get bored. So that completes your first very simple 3-colour square cane, which is going to become part of the Fimo bowl. I'm just finishing off, making sure it's a nice sort of squarey shape, and then I'm going to put that one aside and make another similar one of roughly the same size. I've discarded one of my colours because it was so hard and old stock, I think. So I'm using this bit of an old leaf cane that I play with. It was an end bit, it hadn't quite worked properly towards the end, so it's just scrap cane really, but it still had quite a nice pattern in it. So I'm just going to roll it out. I'm not going to use the original pattern as it is. I'm going to condense it down by rolling it out, splitting it into 2, and then 2 again to make 4 little blocks, and rolling those together, squishing them together there like that, and then rolling them out to make a new cane with a much smaller pattern running through the middle of it. You can see there, rolling it out nice and thin. So I'm going to actually repeat the process again. And then I'm going to use another end bit of cane, the same cane, but I've not condensed it, and I'm actually going to add that one in just to make the pattern a little bit more interesting, give it a bit of variation. So there'll be lots of very small leaf shapes on the first cane and then some larger ones around the edge. Doubled that up, much the same process, squish it all together, make sure that there are no air bubbles running through the middle of it. It's important to start squishing from the inside and work out, roll it out like that again, nice and long, then again in half and in half again. I actually tend to go for these sort of random abstract patterns. Sometimes they work better than the intentional canes that you started off with. So rolling that out, and I'm going to now squash it in because I've made the log a bit long for a central log, so I'm squashing it together. Because it's abstract, I'm not going to mess around with the pattern too much by doing this. So just going to make that central log for my second square cane like that. Push it down so you can see what's going on there. Take the roller and roll it down. If you just turn it like that, you'll quite easily make it into a sort of rectangular log. You can roll it either side, either way. Now I've got my yellow again, the same yellow that I used for the other cane. It's nice to have similar colours running through. And again, just conditioning the clay and squashing it out. We're going to do the exact same that we did with the first cane to make a square cane that's roughly about the same size, because I'm wanting equal proportions of the 2 separate canes. So again, rolling it out and just making it smooth, measuring it to check that it'll fit round the cane, stretching it a bit, making it even, measure it up, and then again just trim it off and wrap that piece round your central log. Make sure that the edges are nice and trim as well, and then carefully trim off the excess, and then again you can just use the roller to squash it down. And now I'm just using my hands to kind of even it up, can smooth it down and pull it out. So what we're aiming for is 2 long, thin, square, log-shaped canes. You can see right now they're 2 totally different sizes, but roughly the same amount of clay has gone into each of them. So what I'm going to do is stretch that one out, use the acrylic roller to squash it out. And if you keep rolling and turning it over, rolling, smoothing it out with your hands, you can stretch it out to as long and thin as you want, much like any other cane. And I'm going to do the exact same thing with this other one as well. So I want them to be about the same size. Now I've got my 2 logs, and what I'm going to do is use my super slicer to start slicing off sections of the log. Take the end bit off and discard it. Roughly about 4-5 millimeter thick sections. They're going to become, those cross sections, the main pattern on the bowl. That's my one cane chopped up into pretty even slices, and then I'm just going to switch the border around and do the exact same thing with the other cane. Start by laying out your pieces in whatever desired pattern. I'm going to use a checker because they're square, they're nice and easy to slot together. And I'm just going to alternate one and the other. If you start by doing, say, a 4x4, working on how many pieces you have, you can build up a nice sort of even square type shape with all your little squares. And once you've used all your pieces, you can use your acrylic roller and slowly start rolling, and you'll see how the clay merges together and all your little squares become one. Once you've rolled it out a little bit, you should be able to ease it off of the ceramic tile very carefully. You can see how it's all become one big sheet. Continue using the roller to roll it out until the desired thickness. If you want a very thick, sturdy bowl, you might want to leave it at maybe 3 or 4 millimeters thickness. I tend to roll it so that it's about 2 millimeters all round. You've got to bear in mind the size of your bowl in relation to how much Fimo you've got in the sheet, because obviously you want to fit it into the bowl. Once you've got your final sheet, you then take your bowl, and you've got your ceramic bowl, which is what we're going to use to shape the bowl and bake it in the oven. So give it a little wipe out with a tissue and place it in very carefully, pushing from the middle, making sure that the edges aren't too ruffled. You are going to have a bit of excess, but you can smooth it out, pushing it, and really you want the Fimo to touch every surface, every bit of surface of the bowl, so that you don't get air bubbles rising up during the cooking process. And also pressing down the sides where we've got folds in the edges, you can just sort of smooth them over, press them down with your fingers a bit. And then I'm just going to use my a scalpel blade to cut around the edge of the bowl, nice slowly and carefully, so that we get a nice straight edge bowl. And I mean, this process does create a lot of waste, but as I said, you can use your excess clay to do an awful lot with. No clay should ever go unused. Make new colours with it, do all sorts of things, and then peel away. You can see, peel away all the excess. And there we have it. That's ready to be baked. Pop it in the oven for half an hour. Once you take it out, it should just slide out of the bowl very easily, and there is your final bowl, all hard and lovely. What a lovely gift for Christmas. Well, I hope that you've all enjoyed my first ever video for Polymer Clay TV. If you'd like to see some more of my work, you can check out my website. It's www.feelmoreloveboutique.com. Bye bye for now.